So the last day's work has been basically to build the quadrant, which is this component here, which, as you can see, basically separates the gear change lever and the handbrake lever from each other. There's also, not sure that you can see it, but just there's a ratchet mechanism which I've filed into the center one. The next thing I'm going to do is take the handbrake lever and build the ratchet mechanism that goes onto that to engage with the ratchet in the quadrant. I've made all of the components that will basically transfer the rotary motion. I've made a series of arms which will be bolted onto the three components you can see here. So there's basically three shafts on this. There's the outer shaft, there's the inner shaft, this silver one, which does the handbrake. There's the central shaft here, which does the on the real vehicle will be doing the second and third gear, and the other shaft that moves on the real vehicle will be doing the first and reverse gear. So that's already that's all nicely complete. Just got to finish off the handbrake mechanism now to get the ratchet effect, and then I'll be working back on the chassis to get all of the connecting levers, etc., made and set up and connected prior to total dismantling, ready in preparation for painting. And here is the completed handbrake. So as you can see, I've now got a connecting rod, this piece here, which goes between the handle, as you can see moving there, and a little ratchet stop that I've made, which again, as you can see, fits on there and will move. I've had it fitted to the car and it does engage properly. The little spring I've had to make myself. I'm struggling to find a spring that would be appropriate, so I've just wound one myself. It's well, I guess it's not the best of springs. I find making springs quite difficult, but as you can see, you know, it functions, and it will mostly be hidden because this particular lever sits with this face showing outwards. Once it's all been painted, it'll look a lot better. So I've got some paint to do now. Just a few more things that I've made, which I can show you. So just get this. Just moving on to some of the other components that I've made. So what we have here is the operating mechanism for the gearbox, which will be connected via rods to the end of the gear change lever. This particular one is just this particular one here is just a transit to allow the brake pedal to engage with the brake the brake drum on the transmission brake. There's another component that goes with it, so this component will be fixed to the chassis, and when you, let's get this right, when you operate the brake lever, it will pull that, and this arm will lift up the brake operating lever, which I'll show you later when I actually fit this component. So there are a couple of components I've made. I've also made a number of shafts, connecting shafts, which will connect to various components, and also you can see here this is another clamp. This particular clamp is for the gear change mechanism, so there's another clamp. And there are some components on the vehicle which I'm not sure I've shown you before. I'll just take the camera away and show you those. So as you can see here, there's an operating shaft. That's for the rear brakes. You can see one of the brake components just there. If I just push it from the side, you can see that there moving. And there's also a front shaft, which is this one here, which connects to the rear brakes as well. So it'll be more evident once I've got all the rods and shafts in. So just moving back to the chassis, as you can see here, I've now got the quadrant fixed to the chassis. It's actually in its final position. There's no real reason to move it because I can get the gear levers and linkages in with this where it is. The other thing I've done is I've actually fitted the two operating pedals for the clutch and the brake. I've put a stop in here, so as you can see that lever doesn't go any higher, and I've also done a similar thing on the bottom. So I've got a bar down here to which the springs are connected. Not sure you can see the springs that are that obvious, but you can see as I press the pedals down, there's both a top and bottom stop and a spring action included in those. The last couple of days I've been applying paint to many of the components that I've made. So as you can see along here, and the frame for the cab, those are all now in the final colour, and they were all given a coat of etch primer and then painted with the enamel paint that I'm using. And while that's been going on, I've been well, mainly waiting for paint to dry. I've been focusing on some other things. So here, for example, is the steering box. I mean, I showed you this at an earlier stage when I had a nylon gear in it. It's now got a brass worm gear set in there. It does work, but it's quite difficult because I've only got that to turn. It's quite difficult to turn it, but it does work. I've tested it out, and as you can see, yesterday I gave it a coat of etch primer. Similarly, I've done a paint job on the operating pedals after I'd actually fitted the pedal tops to it. So hopefully you can see that there. It's now got the foot piece on the end of the pedal, and the same is true for the other pedal. And again, while that's all being dried, I've started on the clutch operating mechanism. So this component, I've got, these are the two chassis mounts for it to mount on the chassis, and then for that to support the operating lever. And if I just come over here a little bit and focus in a bit better, this lever actually goes in there. I don't know whether you can see that clearly, and is used to pull the clutch with a turning motion. So you can see the clutch operating there. So one of the next things to do is to mount the components on the chassis around which this turns, and then the next step is basically to fully assemble everything and get all the linkages the right length. So linkages for the clutch, the brake and the gearbox, and I'll be doing that shortly. Watch for the next video.